Hey everybody, this is Halstead and Andrew McMillan with REH CPA. Today we want to talk about, let's say you get your individual tax return done and there is a large balance due for which you are unable to pay. The good news is the IRS will work with you on that. I've got Andrew McMillan here with me today. Andrew, what can you tell us about the process if you can't pay a tax bill?
Well, first I always make sure the client, you still want to file your tax return. Just because you can't pay the balance due, still file your tax return, because if you don't, it's only going to most likely substantially increase the amount that you're going to owe, because you're going to be hit with a failure to file penalty that is pretty substantial in a lot of situations. So always file your tax return even if you can't pay the full amount of the tax owed. That's first off, and then next is just you start determining how much can you pay, and then what do you still owe. So always, obviously pay as much as you can to work that balance down. But if you're in the situation where you owe less than $10,000, it's very easy to go on an installment agreement with the IRS, and it's guaranteed. Like, the IRS won't even really there's not a lot of pushback really on any of it. It's just if you owe less than $10,000 and you have a clean record of filing your tax returns and you're current on all your prior year payments, everything was current and timely, I think it's within the preceding 5 years, then you're pretty much guaranteed to get on an installment agreement with the IRS if it's under $10,000 and you can pay within like 3 years. But oftentimes we're having the conversation where someone owes more than 10 grand. So the next threshold dollar amount is about $50,000. So if you owe less than $50,000 in taxes, penalties, and interest, if it all accumulates to less than 50 grand, it's still relatively easy to go on an installment agreement with the IRS. You can apply online, or you can apply by attaching a tax form to your return. But most times people just apply online. And it's pretty much guaranteed again, but it's a little bit more involved. But it's very easy to get on a payment plan with the IRS if you owe less than 50 grand. The hard part is if you owe more than 50 grand. That's when you pretty much are going to have to go through the process where the IRS wants to dig into your entire financial background. They want to see how much assets you have, how many liabilities you have, what your house is worth, what your car is worth, jewelry, what your liabilities are. I mean, do you have life insurance? What do you have as an asset? And then what liabilities do you have? And they determine what they think your ability to pay is and how much you can pay on a monthly basis. They want to go over your household budget. So it's
a very, very time-consuming process. It's laborious.
It is. I mean, it's not overly complex. It's just very time-consuming. You have to get lots of records.
In fact, sometimes if we have clients that are like $55,000, I'm like, hey, pay $6 grand on this so that way we can get under the threshold, and it's a much easier process.
So, it's not. You can still go on the installment agreement. It's not like it's not available to you. Just know it's going to take a little bit of effort here on your part to pull a lot of information. So it's available, but the best case scenario is to work it down to less than about 50 grand if you can. And then, usually when I'm having these conversations, someone's seen an infomercial or an ad about offers and compromises. So that's a thing too, but there's a lot of misconceptions around it. An offer and compromise is not, it's not necessarily like a negotiating skill set. Like, it's not like, I have the best negotiator, so they got my offer and compromise so low.
Right. These guys have a secret method to negotiate with the IRS. It just doesn't exist.
It's not a haggle type scenario. No. You're not buying a car where you can lowball them and then walk from the table 2 and 3 times and get your balance as low as possible. Like, it's actually math backed behind. Like, it's a formula the IRS uses backed by math. So they look at your assets again, they look at your liabilities, they determine their ability to collect from you over a number of years, and it comes to it's a mathematical equation where they figure out, well, this is what we reasonably expect to collect on your balance owed, and there can be an offer and compromise there. But it's usually for people who aren't working anymore, aren't earning an income anymore, maybe going through bankruptcy or insolvent, some sort of situation where there's just really no likelihood that they're going to be able to pay their balance. So for the vast majority of people who are still working and still earning an income, an offer and compromise can be extremely challenging. So,
well, that's all really good information. So for you guys out there, if you have a tax balance due and you don't think you're going to be able to pay it, and you've got questions on how to go about setting up arrangements with the IRS, feel free to give us a call and we will help you out. Thank you.